It started with a voice that cut through the warm California air like a whip. "You're bathing my son like a stray dog." Colton froze, garden hose in hand, water glinting in the sun as it streamed over Connor's curls. For a moment, the world held still until Carissa Dane appeared at the edge of the marble path, heels biting into grout, black suit immaculate except for the rumple of rushing. Behind her sunglasses, her eyes locked on the scene like it was an insult. Colton put the hose down slowly. "He got muddy," he said evenly, "and your answer was to drag him outside and spray him down." She snapped. "He asked for water time." He laughed. Carissa's lips thinned. "My son was due at music therapy. Structured play. And I find him half naked in a plastic bin with my janitor playing summer camp." "You came home early," Colton replied, still calm. "That's not the point." "No," he said quietly, "but maybe it's the problem." Connor giggled, offering a soaked dinosaur. Carissa ignored it. "You were hired to clean floors, not parent my child." "And yet," Colton said, "you left him with me." By evening, she decided she wanted him gone. HR would handle it. But first, she wanted to know exactly who this man was. 2 hours later, Chloe, her assistant, returned with a file. "Former award-winning engineer, designed eco-housing for low-income families. Wife died in childbirth 3 years ago. Single father, spotless record." Carissa stared at the newspaper clipping at younger Colton holding a child from a shelter he designed. Why was he here, mopping her floors? Chloe's answer was quiet. "Floors are quieter than grief." It should have been simple cut ties, move on. But that night, Connor's silence was deafening. No bedtime giggles, no stories. When he finally spoke, it was to ask if Daddy laughed because he'd laughed too loud. Carissa lied, but the truth gnawed at her. The next day, she fired the nanny after hearing Connor whisper that she doesn't laugh. Left alone with him, Carissa sat by the tub, sleeves rolled up, and splashed the water. "There's a monster in here," she whispered. Connor's lip twitched. A splash later, laughter erupted. She was soaked, her hair ruined, and she didn't care. But that night, Connor still asked for Colton. Days later, in the attic, she found Colton's old blueprints, a shelter shaped like open arms, and a small home labeled for Leah, for who we would have become. That same evening, she went to his modest bungalow. "I didn't know about your work," she said. "Or your wife." "I wasn't hiding it," he said. "Just not offering." "Why this job?" "Because my son heard another child laugh in your backyard. I stayed so he wouldn't forget the sound." Then came the storm. Connor slept outside in the rain, waiting for Daddy Colton. By nightfall, he was burning with fever. Carissa sat by his bed, whispering apologies that couldn't undo her choice. At dawn, she called Colton. "I shouldn't have let you go," she admitted. "I thought safety meant walls. I forgot children don't need protection from joy." When he returned, Connor's smile lit the room. Still, something in Carissa shifted further when she discovered an old letter from her mother. "A child doesn't need a CEO. They need someone who stays." The next morning, Carissa told Colton she wanted to help him finish the shelter he'd abandoned after Leah's death. "I've built a life no one wants to live inside," she confessed. The empty lot became their project. She traded heels for mud, learned to measure and cut, to laugh when the hammer missed. One afternoon, Connor joined with a plastic shovel. "Can I help dig?" And they let him. Carissa stopped building for applause. "Today I left in your yard," she told Colton. "That's why I'm staying." Months later, the ribbon was cut on a space that smelled of sawdust and sunlight, with a mural reading, "You're safe here." In the center's corkboard hung photos of paint-splattered days and crooked beams, and in the middle, a hand-drawn blueprint of a family, a hand holding a smaller hand, a coffee shared at sunrise, a man staying, a woman letting herself be loved. They stayed late that night, eating sandwiches on the steps. "Thank you," she said to Colton. "It wasn't a second time," he replied. It was a pause until you were ready to walk with me. The weeks that followed were filled with peanut butter lunches, piano lessons, garden dirt under fingernails. One quiet evening, Colton handed her a sketch of a house, 3 bedrooms, a swing set, titled, "The House We Didn't Plan, But Built Anyway." "Is this for me?" she asked. "It's for us," he said. When the center was empty, Connor asleep upstairs, Carissa wrote herself a letter. "You didn't just build a center. You chose people. You chose presence. You chose love." In blue crayon, Connor left his own note on the chalkboard. "We're not perfect, but we stayed." And maybe that was the only blueprint worth following. If this story touched you, tell us where you're watching from. Share your own stories in the comments. And remember, you don't have to be perfect to be part of something beautiful. You just have to stay. The center had been open for 6 months when the first real crack appeared, not in the walls, but in the people. It was a Thursday morning, the kind that smelled like fresh paint and coffee, when a knock came at Carissa's office door. Colton stood there, hair still damp from the rain, as carrying something heavier than mud on his boots. "We've got a problem," he said simply. In the main room, a boy sat curled in the corner of the reading nook. 11 years old, arms crossed tight, as full of the kind of defiance that comes from too much hurt. His name was Mason. CPS had dropped him off that morning after his 3rd foster home in 2 years. "He's not speaking," Chloe whispered. Carissa crouched down beside him. "Hi, Mason. I'm Carissa. This is a safe place." Mason didn't even blink. Colton knelt next to her, setting a battered baseball glove on the floor. "Found this in the donation box," he said, not looking at Mason. "Shame no one here knows how to throw a curveball." A flicker just enough for Mason's eyes to shift toward the glove. By lunch, Mason was in the yard, Colton pitching underhand while Connor chased after stray balls. Carissa watched from the porch, coffee cooling in her hands, and for the first time since opening the center, she felt unsettled. Not because Mason was here, but because she saw in him a piece of herself, someone who'd learned early that trust had an expiration date. That night, as she locked up, Colton caught her in the hallway. "He's going to test us," he said. "He'll break rules, push limits." "I know," she replied. "And you're ready for that?" Colton gave a half smile. "I've been that kid." Over the next weeks, Mason did exactly what Colton predicted. He skipped chores, hid snacks, even disappeared for an afternoon, sending Carissa into a panic until Colton found him 2 blocks away at a gas station buying gum. "What were you thinking?" she demanded when he returned. Mason shrugged. "Didn't think you'd notice." Carissa's voice softened despite herself. "We notice." But the real storm came on a Saturday. Connor had been showing Mason the house game, the same one that had once caused so much chaos. When Mason accidentally sprayed one of the other kids, the girl burst into tears, and in the mess of apologies, Mason muttered, "Whatever, it's not like anyone's really my family here." The words hit Carissa harder than she wanted to admit. She pulled him aside, ready to lecture, but Colton stepped in first. "Walk with me," he told Mason. They disappeared toward the garden, and when they returned 20 minutes later, Mason's shoulders were looser, his eyes less guarded. Colton didn't share what was said, and Carissa didn't ask. Some blueprints, she was learning, weren't hers to draw still. That night, she found herself in the quiet library, staring at the blueprint of a family pinned to the cardboard. One of the sketches, a child laughing, seemed to mock her. Mason hadn't laughed once. The next day, she tried again. "We're making pancakes," she told him. "You in?" Mason eyed her. "Do you even know how?" She smirked. "Guess you'll have to find out." The kitchen became a war zone of flour and syrup. Connor was covered in batter. Mason pretended not to smile, but when Carissa flipped a pancake clean onto his plate, his grin broke through for just a second. She caught it, didn't comment, didn't make it a big deal. Just let it be. Weeks later, during a volunteer day, Carissa overheard Mason telling another kid, "This place is weird. People actually stay." It wasn't a decoration, but it was a start. Then came the twist. Mason's aunt showed up, paperwork in hand, wanting custody. By law, they had no right to stop it. Carissa felt her stomach drop as she explained to Mason what was happening. He shrugged like it didn't matter, but his voice betrayed him. "Guess I'll start packing." Colton pulled her aside. "We can't make promises we can't keep. But we can let him know we want him to come back." "And if he doesn't?" she asked. Colton's answer was simple. "Then we send him with enough love to remember what it feels like." The day Mason left, Connor gave him the battered baseball glove. "In case you need someone to play catch with," he said. Mason looked at Carissa, hesitated, then hugged her quick. "Awkward, but real. You're not like I thought," he muttered. "Neither are you," she replied. That night, the center felt too quiet. Carissa sat on the porch steps, Colton beside her. "I hate the not knowing," she admitted. "Where he is, if he's okay." Colton nodded. Staying doesn't always mean staying in the same place. Sometimes it's about leaving a door open. 2 months passed. Then, one rainy afternoon, the front door swung open. Mason stood there, soaked, taller somehow. "Aunt said I could visit," he said, voice casual but eyes searching. Connor barreled into him like no time had passed. Carissa swallowed the lump in her throat. "You hungry?" Mason smirked. "Only if you're making pancakes." That evening, after the kitchen was a mess again, Carissa stepped into the garden where Colton was cleaning up tools. "You were right," she said. "About what?" "About leaving the door open." She paused. "It's harder than walls. But it's better." Colton smiled, that small, steady way he had. "That's because walls keep people out. Doors give them a way back." Inside, laughter spilled from the kitchen. Mason, Connor, and a group of kids building pancake towers that had no hope of standing. Carissa listened, letting the song fill every crack she once tried to seal. And for the first time, she didn't worry about how long it would last. She just stayed in it.